Khanna, a Democratic member of the House Armed Services, Agriculture, and Oversight Committees. He is also a deputy whip for the Progressive Caucus. I know you've been feeling the pinch, certainly in California. When I was out there last, I was like, what? Filling up the car with gas. But I do want to talk about inflation overall and the gas prices. We're going to get to that in a moment. First, though, Steve Bannon is being indicted by a federal grand jury for contempt of Congress. How dramatic of a move is this? Does it send a message to anyone who's thinking of not cooperating with the committee? And do you think it ultimately compels more testimony from those key figures?
Alex, yes, I do. It sends a message that no American is above the law, that when Congress asks for basic documents, when Congress asks for you to testify, you comply. And what's important to realize here is Steve Bannon wasn't working at the White House. He wasn't actually even on the campaign. He was a private civilian. He should do what any American would do, which is comply with Congress's request.
Okay, and we will see what happens on Monday. We know he will be in court for an appearance then, so we'll watch very carefully. Let's go to the gas prices, though, because right now the national average for gas, it's roughly $3.41. A year ago, it was about $2.13. There in your state, now about $4.67. That matches a record high. That was set back in 2012. You have some Senate Democrats calling on the president to release supply from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and to ban crude oil exports. What does it mean tapping into strategic oil reserves? And I think that's something you've supported, correct? Haven't you talked about that?
Yes, Alex, I have. Look, I was back home all week. Gas is almost $5. We need immediate relief for the working class and middle class. The tapping of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve would help. But the real long-term solution is to invest in renewable energy, electric vehicles. There was none of that investment over the last 4 years, and that's led to the volatility. If we had more electric vehicles, more renewable energy, we wouldn't have this surge of demand, and we'd have more price stability. But right now, given the crisis, we need to have the Strategic Petroleum Reserve tapped and to put more pressure on OPEC.
Well, supply is not keeping up with demand. I know that you recently, sir, confronted the CEOs of the oil companies in a House Oversight hearing. It was all about the fossil fuel industry's alleged efforts to try to mislead the public about climate change. So as these oil companies are now struggling to meet demand, how do you balance roughing them up versus the role that they must play in daily life right now?
Well, Alex, I don't think asking them to tell the truth is roughing them up. I mean, these oil companies weren't willing to say that past executives who had said that burning fossil fuels doesn't cause climate change, that those statements were false. So first, they just need to accept the science. Second, they all support the Paris Accords. Well, under the Paris Accords, you have to have some transition to renewable energy and electric vehicles. The European oil companies are reducing production 1 or 2% every year. That's a gradual decline that's made up for with heavy investment in renewable energy. The problem here is we haven't had that renewable energy or electric vehicle increase. So what I would say is let's double down on that. Let's solve the immediate need with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, but let's really make sure we have price stability in the future by investing in clean energy.
Yeah, okay, you're trying to hit on all fronts here, but when you and your House colleagues return to work next week, the plan is for the House to pass the Build Back Better legislation. However, the CBO, while releasing some cost estimates, says that a complete analysis, that's going to take longer. Your moderate colleagues demand to see the CBO score before they vote. So can you give us the potential timeline, what that looks like right now to get that vote?
Well, here's what I don't understand, actually. You know, they keep saying trust the president, progressives trust the president and his economists. I don't understand why we're putting trust in this bureaucracy. The president's economists are much better. But in any case, I believe that they're going to get the scores, the relevant scores this week. The speaker just sent out a dear colleague saying that many of the scores are already in, consistent with the president's numbers. And then we need to pass this because it's going to mean relief for the American working class. I mean, it's going to be a tax cut for the working class, $300 for every family with kids per child, the earned income tax credit, which is a working class tax credit cut. So basically, you're putting more money in the pockets of folks as they're struggling with higher prices.
Yeah. And, you know, in good faith, you voted to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill last week. Did you have some sort of an assurance that Senator Joe Manchin was on board with Build Back Better, or was it urgent enough to pass infrastructure that it didn't matter in that moment?
We had the assurance of the White House, of the president, who said here is the framework, $1.75 trillion. It's going to have child care. It's going to have money for climate, the biggest investment in climate ever. It's going to help seniors. And I have the commitment of 50 senators on this framework. And when I've spoken personally to Senator Manchin, I'm convinced that he wants this president to succeed. He wants the bill to pass. So I'm confident that it will pass.
Okay, we're going to add another name here because 6 of your progressive colleagues voted against the infrastructure bill. They were apparently not convinced of Senators Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema in agreement there. Do you understand their position?
I do. I respect them. I mean, first of all, they wanted $40 billion for lead pipes, what it will take to really solve the issue. The bipartisan infrastructure bill had $15 billion. I thought it was a step forward, but they want more, and they understand that the Build Back Better bill is so necessary for their districts, for making sure that it helps working families. So what they're saying is we need to make sure that we deliver the entirety of the president's agenda. I'm convinced we will, and I'm hopeful that we will have a unanimous Democratic vote on the Build Back Better bill.
And that could happen when? Can you guesstimate when that might happen in the House?
It should happen soon after Thanksgiving, if not before. I know we've made tremendous progress. The committees are on the same page. I'm actually not that concerned on the House. I think the Speaker always delivers the House. She's a masterful legislator. I don't know how she does it. Time and again, she delivers. So I'm confident the President will be able to do it with Senator Schumer in the Senate.
Okay. Congressman Khanna, if I do not speak with you before Thanksgiving, have a wonderful one, and I'm thankful for every time you're on this program. Appreciate you.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm thankful for you, Alex. Have a wonderful
Appreciate
Thanksgiving.
So inside the grand